Okay, let's dive in. If you're listening, maybe you know that feeling, that invisible weight
Nah.
of obligation or just constant mental noise.
Yeah.
And you feel like your time, your energy, it's just being silently drained. You know? But you can't quite put your finger on why.
That's exactly that feeling. That's pretty much the cost of living without boundaries.
A boundaryless life.
Right. When we don't clearly define what's ours, our emotions, our time, our energy, and what belongs to other people, we just become, well, permeable.
Yeah.
And chaos just rushes right in.
Yeah. Okay, let's make this concrete. We've got this case study. Sherry, she's a composite, right?
You're right. A talented fashion designer, but she's basically drowning.
Why? Because she thinks she has to be everything to everyone.
All the time, yeah. I mean, think about her day. It starts with her mom showing up late, demanding attention. Sherry eventually lies just to get her to leave. But the lie doesn't actually fix the real issue, does it? Afterwards, Sherry's just left wondering, if I helped so much, why was Mom still lonely? Why did she still need me for happiness? The sacrifice felt kind of pointless.
Yeah, it didn't solve the underlying problem. And then there's her friend Lois.
Oh, Lois, always in a crisis, right?
Totally. And Sherry feels like she has to be the emotional first responder. But does Lois ever ask how Sherry's doing?
Never. It's completely one-sided, just a constant drain.
And work isn't any better. Her boss, Jeff Moreland.
Flags her down, huge project, needs writing, editing, needs it tomorrow.
Of course. And Sherry knows this tune. The 100th verse of the same old song.
And it doesn't stop there. Later, Phyllis from the church calls, wants her to take on a big retreat role.
Which means giving up that tiny bit of alone time she desperately needs.
Her precious alone time, yeah. But she doesn't have the internal tools, the psychological armor to say no.
So Sherry's just burning out for family, friends, work, church, all because she's missing this, basic firewall.
Exactly. And that's our mission today, really. We want to show you, using insights from psychology and spiritual perspectives, that boundaries, they aren't cruel, they're not selfish.
They're necessary.
Absolutely necessary. A mature reality that brings clarity, safety, and they're essential if you want to have genuine love and real responsibility in your life.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is a boundary, really?
Well, think of it like a property line. It's intangible, sure, but it's as real as the fence around your yard. In your soul, it defines your personal space. It helps you guard your resources, your time, energy, emotions.
Okay, a property line. So what's its main job?
Its primary function is to define what you are responsible for, that's your property, and maybe even more importantly, what you are not responsible for.
Which is?
Other people, their choices, their feelings, their problems. Now, we are called to be responsible to others, right? Like the Bible says, carry each other's burdens.
Right. Galatians.
Yes. But we're responsible for ourselves. That distinction is crucial. We're not supposed to have other control. It's impossible anyway, and we waste so much energy trying.
I like the metaphor used in the source material boundaries as fences with gates. It's not just a solid wall.
Exactly. That's key. The fence keeps the good stuff in your energy, your values, healthy support, and the bad stuff out. Harm, unrealistic demands, other people's chaos.
But it needs a gate.
It needs a gate. It has to be permeable enough to let good things in, like receiving feedback, getting support, hearing truth, but strong enough to keep genuine danger out.
It's fascinating, though, how people can flip that function completely backward.
Oh, totally. Often without even realizing it. Say someone grew up with abuse or neglect. They might learn to reverse it. They hold all the pain inside, tightly guarded, and they shut off potential support.
So they keep the bad in and the good out.
Precisely.
Yeah.
For them, learning healthy boundaries means building gates strong enough to let the pain out, finally, and open enough to let good healing things in.
Okay, so if these boundaries are invisible property lines, how do we actually build them? What's the tool?
Words. Simple as that. In the spiritual and psychological realm, your property lines are built with words.
And the most basic one.
No! It's the most fundamental, most powerful boundary-setting word there is. Being clear about your yes and your no, that confirms you exist separately from others. It asserts you're in control of yourself.
Something Sherry completely lacked.
Utterly, and that lack of clarity is why she felt so powerless.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about common boundary problems. The sources highlight two main profiles, starting with the compliance.
Right. Compliance. These are the folks who habitually say yes to the bad stuff, or just yes to everything until they're overwhelmed.
Their boundaries are fuzzy, indistinct.
Very. They sort of melt into other people's demands. They fear losing love or making someone angry. They become like relationship chameleons.
So they'll downplay differences just to keep things smooth,
Mm.
like pretending to like the same band or saying an activity was fun when they hated it.
Exactly that. Just get along. And this often goes back to childhood. If setting a limit as a kid meant getting punished, or worse, the parent emotionally withdrew.
Ah.
Then they learn that setting limits is bad, even dangerous. It leaves them feeling defenseless against controlling people later on. They worry their real self isn't lovable.
And the flip side of the compliant is the controller.
Yes. These are the people who just don't respect other people's property lines. They resist taking responsibility for their own lives.
And they use control to get others to carry their load, their knapsacks, as the source puts it.
That's the core of it. For a controller, hearing no isn't a stop sign, it's a challenge. It means try harder to change their mind. They see your resources, your time, your energy as available for their use.
And this control shows up in a couple of different ways, right?
Yeah, two main flavors. You've got the aggressive controllers. They just roll right over your boundaries like a tank.
The example given was Peter rebuking Jesus.
Perfect example. Telling the Messiah what he should or shouldn't do. That's aggressively ignoring someone else's path, their direction.
And then there are the sneakier ones, the manipulative controllers.
They use indirect tactics, guilt trips, maybe charm, playing the victim, sulking, anything to get around a direct no. They try to make you feel responsible for their feelings or problems. Think of Jacob tricking Esau out of his birthright. That's manipulation.
Okay, but here's where it gets really insightful, I think. The way these two types often end up together.
Oh, it's almost like magnets. Compliants are often, maybe unconsciously, looking for someone broken to fix or someone demanding to please. That keeps them in their compliant role, avoiding their own needs.
And controllers.
Controllers, especially the non-responsive ones, are looking for someone willing to carry their responsibilities, someone to take care of things for them.
And the source puts it so bluntly. What happens when a rescuing, enabling person meets a controlling, insensitive person?
Answer: they get married.
It's dark, but you see it.
You do. It captures that unhealthy dynamic perfectly. They lock into this codependent dance, each feeding the other's dysfunction.
So how do you break that cycle?
Yeah.
We need to look at some fundamental rules, some laws of how life works. The first one is like spiritual gravity.
Pretty much. The law of sowing and reaping. Cause and effect. Actions have consequences.
And the problems start when people, usually the well-meaning compliants, try to interrupt that law in someone else's life.
Exactly. The story about the parents and their irresponsible adult son, Bill, is just searing.
Yeah.
The counselor tells them straight up, you need to set some boundaries so that Bill's actions cause him problems, not you.
And that image. Bill not watering his lawn because his parents' sprinklers cover part of it.
Right. And the counselor's punchline, if Bill doesn't water his own lawn, he'll have to live in dirt. As it stands now, he is irresponsible and happy, and you are responsible and miserable.
Oof, that's powerful. Why is it so hard to let people live in their own dirt, though?
Because we fear the temporary discomfort or consequences they might face more than we dislike the chronic misery we experience by enabling them. We have to learn the difference between a genuine crisis, where we step in and help carry a burden.
Like Galatians 6.2 says.
Right. And chronic irresponsibility, where we're just propping up a destructive pattern.
But isn't that harsh, just letting Bill fail? What if he really falls apart?
That's the tension, isn't it? But setting a boundary isn't abandoning the person. It's drawing the line of responsibility. If Bill's lawn is dead, the law of sowing and reaping says he is responsible for that dirt.
Okay.
Only when he owns the dirt can he genuinely ask for help, maybe figuring out how to fix his sprinkler. If you keep watering it for him, you delay his growth, possibly forever.
Which leads right into the next law, the law of responsibility.
Yeah, it just reinforces the point. We're supposed to love one another, yes, but we're not supposed to be one another. You can't think for someone else. You can't feel for them. You certainly can't grow for them.
The idea of working out your own salvation.
Exactly. It highlights that personal growth is fundamentally an individual journey. You can support me, cheer me on, offer advice, but you can't do the growing for me.
Okay, this brings us to a really critical point. The law of power. People often think setting boundaries means controlling the other person's bad behavior.
And that's a huge misunderstanding. A crucial clarification is needed here. You actually cannot set limits on other people. You can't force Bill to water his lawn.
So what can you do?
What you can do is set limits on your own exposure to people who are behaving badly. Your power is only within your own property line. Control yourself, control your responses, control your resources.
So it's not about fixing them, it's about changing how I deal with them.
Precisely. Change your approach so their old destructive patterns just don't work on you anymore. Remember, Tina, her husband always came home late for dinner.
Right. She stopped nagging him.
Exactly. Nagging was her failed attempt to control him. Instead, she controlled what she could control. The dinner schedule. She served dinner on time. His portion. Leftovers in the fridge.
So she didn't control him, she controlled her own actions and resources.
And that simple boundary shift exposed his irresponsibility directly to him. The consequence cold dinner was now his problem, not hers. And guess what? He started coming home on time.
Wow. Okay, so how do we develop this self-control? These boundaries aren't just something we're born with, right? They're learned.
Definitely learned. And it starts really early. The sources point to critical developmental stages. It begins with bonding. That initial secure attachment creates emotional safety. It builds what psychologists call object constancy.
Which is?
It's like the child's internal GPS. It tells them deep down, I'm okay, I'm loved, even when mom or dad isn't right here. That security is the foundation.
And then comes that phase, the terrible twos, which is really about separation and individuation.
Yes, or rapprochement, technically. Around 18 months to maybe 3 years old, the child has this dawning realization, hey, I'm separate from mom, dad, but wait, I also can't do everything myself. It's a confusing time.
And that's when they start using the tools to define themselves.
Exactly. 3 key tools emerge. Anger, not destructive rage, but that inner signal saying, something's wrong here. A limit has been crossed. Then ownership using mine, my, me, constantly. And of course, the big one, the word no.
And there's a huge warning here for parents.
Absolutely critical. If parents react badly to that no, if they withdraw love, get hurt, get angry, they teach the child your separate truth-telling self. That's not acceptable. That's unlovable.
And that child grows up to be.
Sherry, the adult compliant, terrified of asserting their own needs. It's so much better for the parent to stay connected, stay loving, but still let the child experience the natural consequences of their no rather than making the no itself the problem.
Okay, let's bring this all back to Sherry. What does success look like? What's her day in a life with boundaries?
Well, the changes can be pretty dramatic. Remember her mother's demanding visits?
Yeah.
Now, Sherry might say, lovingly but firmly, Mom, I really want to see you, but right now is actually a really bad time. I have plans I need to keep.
Does that cause hurt feelings?
Probably yes. Some hurt feelings in her mom. But notice the difference. It causes hurt, maybe, but not harm. Sherry held her boundary respectfully without destroying the relationship. That's key.
What about Jeff, the boss who kept dumping work on her?
She doesn't let him interrupt her flow anymore. He tries to flag her down. She keeps walking and says, Hi, Jeff, can you shoot me an email or leave a message? I have to be out the door in 30 seconds.
Huh, what happened?
Her consistent limits actually exposed Jeff's lack of planning to his bosses. It became clear Sherry was the one actually getting things done. Eventually, Jeff had to shape up and basically became her support, her assistant in a way. She finally got credit for her own work.
And the marriage. With Walt, the controlling husband, that must have been tough.
Oh, initially, yes. He likely threatened, sulked, maybe tried manipulating her. But Sherry stayed consistent with her limits. She let him feel the consequences of his choices, his dependency.
And he started to.
He started to miss her connection, to realize how much he actually relied on her in unhealthy ways. They had to renegotiate. They moved away from that compliant controller dynamic towards becoming a real team with mutual love and mutual responsibility.
That's a huge shift. Now, for someone just starting out on this journey, trying to build these boundaries, the sources say the first sign of progress might feel, well, negative.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, isn't it? It's often a feeling of resentment or frustration or even anger popping up about things that never used to bother you.
Like someone asking too much or interrupting.
Exactly. Things you used to just swallow, that new feeling. That's your internal alarm system, your boundary radar finally switching on. It's telling you, hey, someone's standing on your property. It's actually a sign of health.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture? Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away.
Not at all. It's about maturity. It's proactive. It's taking initiative for your own life. And here's the thing. If you can't say no freely because you're afraid of losing love or making someone mad or being alone, then your yes doesn't really count.
What do you mean?
If you say yes on the outside, but inside you're screaming no, that yes comes from compliance, maybe resentment, not genuine love or willingness, that internal no basically cancels out the action. It prevents real, free, loving connection.
So boundaries often seen as walls,
Mm-hmm.
are actually necessary for real closeness, real unity.
Absolutely. And you even see this pattern, this respect for limits, in the divine examples. God himself sets limits. Think about Paul asking repeatedly for his thorn in the flesh to be removed.
And God said no.
God essentially said, "No, Paul, my grace is sufficient for you." And think about Jesus in Gethsemane asking if the cup of suffering could pass from him, but ultimately accepting God's no. If even Christ respected God the Father's boundaries, what does it tell us about the kind of love and profound respect needed to accept and also gently maintain our own limits with the people we care about most? Healthy relationships aren't defined by having no boundaries. They're defined by how well we navigate and respect the boundaries that exist. That's where true connection happens.